Welcome back, Tigers. This is part 3 of our video series on how to use Salesforce campaigns and emails. In this video, we will show you how to create an automation that will update the campaign member status of a contact if the email is opened or bounced. If you missed part 1 or 2 of this series, you can find the links to those videos in the description below. The steps in those videos are not required for this one, but they will show you how we configured the flows to send the emails, which is super important to understand. Let's go check out how to add the ability to see opens and bounces for our contacts. All right, here we are in Salesforce, and there's a couple of things that we need to check to make sure they're enabled before you can start tracking all of these emails that we want to make sure you have turned on. You need enhanced email turned on. So if you go to setup enhanced email, you should not see the enable button. If you see the enable button, it means it's not turned on. So go ahead and turn that on. The second setting you need turned on is in activity settings. And then you need to make sure that enable email tracking is checked. So that's going to allow you to track the opens for your emails. The next thing we're going to do is go to our object manager. We're going to go to our email message object. And you're going to go to the page layout and you're going to add some fields to the layout. You're going to add first opened and last opened. Now you see a status here and you get all excited that, oh, the status is going to update, and it doesn't. It only updates for emails that are sent on cases. So that status field is actually going to say sent no matter if the email is opened or bounced. So don't expect that to change. Our next step is we're going to create a new field on our email message object. Our new field is going to be a formula. It's going to be called first open date equals yesterday. Now this formula is going to allow us to check for all of the records that were opened yesterday, and then we'll be able to process them in a schedule triggered flow. This is the only way that we can look for a date to be a specific date and time because of the limitations in the schedule triggered flows entry criteria. Our formula is going to be our date value of the first open date equals today minus 1. And then this is going to be a field that is used as a helper field in our scheduled triggered flow. I'm going to add that to the layout so I can see when it's true. Now we're going to learn how to create 3 different flows. We learned during testing that we have to have a scheduled triggered flow for our opens, and we can run a real-time flow for our bounces. When we were testing, the one challenge we ran into was on our email messages, on the details tab. If an email is opened, this first open date is indeed populated, but the last modified date of the record was not being changed. So the email message record was not being modified, therefore it was not triggering the record triggered flow. So the only way that we can read the first open date and then trigger an update to our campaign member status is to do a scheduled triggered flow and look for everybody who opened the email yesterday. Now we also want to do a real-time record triggered flow that's going to update the campaign member statuses whenever a email bounces. Now we want that to be real time, so we opted for a scheduled triggered flow, a record triggered flow, and then a subflow, so we're not being redundant in our automations. So we're going to have a scheduled triggered flow and the record triggered flow invoke our subflow so that all of our processing is only happening in the subflow. Now, also one dependency here is you have to have your email message records related to your campaign. In part 1 and 2 of this series, we use the simple email action and the send better email action to relate our email messages to our campaign. So you don't have to complete the steps in part 1 and 2 if you're doing something completely different, but you will have to have your email message record related to the campaign, or else none of the automations that we're going to show you are going to work because they're completely dependent on that. So our first step here is to create our auto-launched flow, which is going to be our subflow. So we'll create a new flow, and then we're going to do an auto-launched flow no trigger. Our first step is to do a get records, and we're going to get our email message recipients. And this is going to be on the email message relation object. And we're going to look for all of the people who have a relation type equal to address. So these are all the people who were sent the email. In our scenario, we didn't have any BCC or CC, so we don't need to worry about those people. And then we're going to look for the email message ID to equal a variable. And this variable we're going to pass in from our other flows. So we're going to call this var email message ID. This is going to be a text, and we're going to make it available for input because our record triggered and schedule triggered flows are going to push these values into this subflow. So we have to open them up so that they're available to be updated from those flows. Then we're going to make sure we choose all records here. Next, we're going to use this awesome transform element, which saves us from doing a lot of work. So if you haven't explored these transform elements, I highly recommend it. Our source data is our get that we just created. So these are all of our email message recipients, and we're going to assign them to a text collection variable. So we're going to choose our data type of text, and we're going to allow multiple values to come in here. Then we're going to map the relation ID to that text collection. Now we're going to use this in our get campaign member. So this is essentially mapping all of the contact IDs into this text collection. So then look what happens here. So we'll do another get records, and this is going to get the campaign member, where our campaign ID equals, and this is going to be another variable. So we're going to push this into our subflow from our other flows. This is also going to be available for input. And then the contact ID has to be in our text collection. So cool. Makes that step so easy. Now we're going to check to see if our campaign member exists. So we're going to check our get records here. Is null is false. Then if our campaign member record is found, we're going to assign the campaign member status. So we're going to go to our get, and we're going to go to the status, and we're going to assign it the status that we're going to pass into this flow. So we're going to create another variable that's called var status. This is going to be a text, and it's available for input. Then we're going to run an update to our campaign member. Okay, so this is our subflow that's going to do all the processing. So you're probably going, what the heck? So you'll see how all this is going to work in a second. We have to have our subflow set up so that we can set up our other flows. So we're going to give it a nice description. We're going to give it a nice title. If you want to copy and paste these titles and descriptions for all of our fields and flows, we do put all that information in our Blu Ninjas articles. Link is in the description below. I'll go ahead and save this, and then I'll activate it. Next, we're going to create our record triggered flow. We'll go to flows, new flow. We're going to start from scratch, and we're going to choose record triggered flow. This is going to be on the email message object. It's going to be when it's created or updated, and we're going to add a decision element here. This is going to check to see if the email is bounced. So we have a bounced field here, which we can check to see if that is true. Then we'll set this to only fire if the record that triggered the flow to run is updated to meet the condition requirements. Our next step is to send this to a subflow. So we'll click subflow there, and then we should be able to see our subflow that we created. And then we're going to map all of our variables here. So our campaign ID is going to be the related to ID on the email message record that came into this flow. The email message ID is going to be the ID of the record that came into this flow. And now this is a little tricky to find. So you need to look for This looks like it's right, but it's not. You see the API name is reply to email message ID, where we just want it to say ID. So it's really misleading here when you're looking for just the email message ID. So this is the one we want. API name equals ID. Then we're going to pass a value of bounced here. And that is it. We'll go ahead and save this. We'll give it a nice title and description, and we'll activate that. So this is the automation that's going to handle the bounced. And then let's go ahead and create the automation that's going to handle the opens. We're going to go to create a new flow. We'll click new flow, and then we're going to choose our scheduled triggered flow. We're going to set this to run today because we're going to have to test this all out. So we'll schedule this to run. It's a little tricky testing these, so we'll have to possibly modify this. Our object is going to be our email message. And then we're going to look for this formula that we created, first open date equals yesterday. We're going to look for that to be true. We want to schedule this schedule triggered flow to run every day at midnight, and it will update everybody in the campaigns to have a status of opened if their email was opened yesterday. Now we're going to add a decision element here. And we're going to look for the related to ID to be a campaign. So we're going to look for the record that's coming into this schedule triggered flow to have a related to ID that starts with 701. And if it starts with 701, that means it's a campaign record. So every record in Salesforce has a 3-letter prefix that corresponds to the object that the record is under. In the campaign case, every single campaign record in Salesforce and every org in the whole world, the records start with 701. Now you may be asking, why didn't you put this criteria in the entry criteria? And the reason is it failed. For some reason, Salesforce can't figure out what the related to ID starting with 701 means when it's in the entry criteria. I'll put the error in the Blu Ninjas article in the description below so that you can see it for yourself, but I'm not sure why it does that or what's not supported, but when I moved it to a decision element, it worked. Now we're going to send this to a subflow. We're going to choose our same subflow here. And then we're going to map all our variables. So our campaign ID is going to be the record that triggered the flow, and then it's going to be the related to ID. This is going to be the record that came into the flow as well. And remember, this is the tricky email message ID field. So it's this one right here with an API name of ID, and then our status is going to be opened. We'll save this. We'll give it a nice title and description. All right, we'll save this and we'll activate it. Now we're ready to test everything out. We're going to come over to our contacts tab. And we've got a contact here named Jared. Now, in a previous video in this series, in part 1 and part 2, you learned how we set up these email campaigns, and they will automatically send an email when a campaign member is added with a status of send email. That in turn creates an email message record related to the campaign and related to the contact. So while the flows that we learned how to configure in this video can work for other scenarios, it's important that you understand everything that we configured in this entire series. I'm going to add Jared to this campaign with a status of send email, and then it's going to send him an email that is guaranteed to be related to the campaign. Okay, so we should see, nice. We see the status is bounced just like that. So let's go ahead and refresh over here. We can see the email message record was created, has a status of bounced, automatically updated our campaign member status. So our bounced process is working perfectly. Now our opened process is a little bit more difficult to test because you have to make sure that all the criteria are set. So we're going to cheat a little bit so that we can test this and just make sure that the automations are even working without it being a specific criteria. So we're going to go over to the formula field that we created on the email message record. And I'm going to take away this -1. So I want the open date to be today. And now I'm going to come to my scheduled triggered flow. I'm going to modify the time that it's going to run. I'm going to activate it. Now this should run at 4:30 today. And this should pick up anybody who opened the email today. Now I have a contact named Allison who we sent an email to earlier. And we can see that Allison last opened this email 1 minute ago. Now, if we want to check and see if this schedule triggered flow is scheduled to run, we can go to setup and we can go to home and we can go to scheduled jobs. And then you'll be able to see that your scheduled job is right there. And we can see the next time that it's going to run. So we're going to come back to Allison. We're going to open up this email. We should see Allison's campaign member status in this campaign get updated to opened. So let's go ahead and look at what her campaign member status is currently. So we can see Allison's status is currently sent. So we expect that to get updated here in a couple minutes. Okay, our scheduled triggered flow ran and yes! The status is opened. So we can see our campaign member status was last updated exactly when the flow ran. And here's the date that the campaign member was first associated. So now what we need to do is go back to our formula. We're going to change this to be today -1. And then we'll save that. And then you're going to go back to your scheduled triggered flow and you're going to make it run at midnight. All right, we'll save that. And then we're getting an error because the start time is in the past. So we'll just set this to tomorrow. We'll save that, activate it. We'll go to our scheduled jobs and just confirm we see it there. And we do, and we see that it's scheduled to run at 12 a.m. tomorrow. All right, great job automating your opened and bounced campaign member statuses. That's it. That's a wrap. Be sure to subscribe to Blue Tiger Academy so you don't miss out on the next video in our Salesforce campaigns and email series. We will show you how to create a flow that will send the emails to the campaign members at a specific scheduled time. This solution allows you to specify the time on the campaign record and schedule emails to go out 30 days in advance of this date. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions or if you'd like to see a video on a different Salesforce topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.